All right, time for us to have a look at the stories that are making headlines in the international press this morning. We start with the Well, with us this morning is Alpesh Patel, CEO at Prifinium Partners. Morning, Alpesh.
Morning.
Lovely to see you. Let's kick off then with the FT. And what are your thoughts, first of all, about the allegation by the Africa Progress Panel, chaired by Kofi Annan, suggesting that although there's this great boom in commodities and commodity prices, African countries are still losing out to a massive tune of, Democratic Republic of Congo, $725 million.
Well, if the allegations are true, and they probably would come as no surprise to people if they're true, whether in relation to this company or many other companies around the world, which continue doing the age-old act, and by age-old I mean it's been going on for centuries, raping and pillaging, financially raping and pillaging African resources. Now, of course, if it's true, then the African country itself and its leadership are to blame as well. But this is a British listed company. Again, if the allegations are true, then presumably they'll be subject to criminal prosecution in the United Kingdom, one would hope, because I doubt there's going to be much going on in the Congo to bring them to justice. What's good is that Kofi Annan, the former Secretary General of the UN, is actually an African himself, is able to do something, because it's good that somebody now is in a position of power to shine a light on this. Sadly, I suspect that they're going to get away with it. They're going to get away with it because valuing assets is incredibly difficult.
Yeah, this case has now gone to the Serious Fraud Office, so it is being taken very seriously. But what of the defence, if you like, that was put forward by this one particular FTSE 100 mining company, the Eurasian Natural Resources Corporation, that they moved into the Democratic Republic of Congo at a time when no one else would, that it's a really risky place to do business?
Like I said, valuing assets is incredibly difficult. I run a private equity firm. We buy and sell assets all the time, and I can tell you that you could make, and a good lawyer will make a credible case, that the assets could have been purchased for £1 because the liabilities and the risks would be so great. However, it's on the front page of the FT for a reason, and I'm assuming that reason, and a former Secretary General of the United Nations is making these allegations. So it'll go beyond just saying, well, nobody else would go in. Clearly, there's a lot of foreign companies in Africa exploiting, in a good way, exploiting those resources, so it's not a case of nobody else would go in.
But these African countries also have governments. Doesn't this also flag up the undercapacity or the underperformance, if you like, of these government departments?
Well, that's been going on for years, but I'm not going to just purely blame the African countries for a lack of governance, because they're so easy to manipulate and corrupt when you get Western corporations, and it is Western corporations time and again coming in, able to manipulate them as well. It is definitely 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, and it is not fair, nobody's saying this, but it's not fair just to say, well, yet another African corruption story. This is actually a Western corruption story as well.
Okay, and just so you know, an interview with Kofi Annan featuring World Business Report later on throughout the day. Little plug there. And moving on to the UK's Daily Telegraph. MPs in trouble again for cashing in on expenses.
Well, speaking of corruption and Western governments, now here they're not accused of breaking any laws. What's happened is they've had money to purchase second homes, and the profits that they've made from that they've kept. So apparently that's not illegal. However, they seem to have a gene missing in their bodies which tells them what's immoral. And what I don't understand is how these individuals then get to make our laws. Presumably our laws have no moral content whatsoever, because these individuals have no moral content whatsoever. And I also don't understand where their parties are. Their parties are so strong on discipline, usually. Eject them, for God's sake. And why can't our MPs sit morality tests before the election? Instead of just spouting out the manifesto, dull and boring as these manifestos are, let's have a few things about morality and a bit more about what's right and wrong, because these individuals have no conception of what public servant actually means. They need to find new jobs.
Well, let's go on to the New York Times, because there are some people with rather lucrative jobs creating perhaps that nightmare spectre of cyber thieves. They've got about $45 million in just a few hours.
Do you know what's interesting about this? The first two stories we discussed were about the rich stealing from the public. stealing, allegedly, from the public. This story is about the public stealing from the rich. I'm not saying it's not illegal or not immoral, but you've got to say somebody robbing a bank isn't going to get, well, the bank's not going to get much sympathy from many people, are they? $45 million in a few hours they took using some kind of Hollywood script scenario of ATM machines and crews and money laundering and all the rest of it. The only people who can make $45 million from a bank usually are bankers. And I think these individuals are so talented, they'd actually make more money working within a bank than working against a bank. They're obviously going to get caught. What's interesting actually about this in a broader theme is, I used to read US politics, there's a whole stream of literature about US political culture and the level of criminality in such a rich country. And apparently the reason for that is that they aspire to wealth. And when you aspire to wealth and you can't get it, you're going to encourage criminality. It's something which American society doesn't really address other than through stronger laws. But this is actually just a symptom of the fact that it's Americans who are sophisticated enough to do it, but there are also Americans who'd be, I don't want to use the word greedy, but would, through their political culture, be encouraged enough to do it.
Now, Alpesh, we're running out of time, so we're going to skip over Greece and the words of optimism coming, not surprisingly, from its finance minister, and go to that lovely picture of Sir Alex and his successor, David Moyes. A classic case, perhaps, of bowing out gracefully.
What a fantastic Britain. And I bet if the Scots had independence, he wouldn't even be able to get a work permit in England. But what a fantastic Britain. As a Leeds United supporter, I'd just like to remind Sir Alex, despite all his successes, it was Leeds who defeated Man United in the FA Cup about 2 years ago, 1-0. So he's incredibly successful, but never managed to get on top of Leeds in that game.
Moving on, I think, Alice, and our last story. Now, this is the kind of reception that you'd like to get, isn't it, Alpesh? Hordes of adoring females shouting his name, and these are professional women, mind you. These are in the White House and in Congress. I
love that facial expression of the last lady. She looks absolutely ecstatic, doesn't she?
She wants to bag herself a prince.
And aren't knees in fashion, apparently, as well. I think he makes such a fantastic ambassador for the United Kingdom, and also actually for young people, because this is a charitable cause that he's promoting at the same time. So, yeah, he's my role model, and I would like that kind of reception, I'm sure.
We'll organise one for you. Alpesh, thank you, and thank you for being with us.